In his first administration, President Trump all too often deliberately directed disaster aid based on the party politics of local leadership and past electoral performance, not the needs of the community and disaster survivors. In 2017, his administration denied 99% of the aid that North Carolina's Democratic governor requested as part of cleanup efforts after Hurricane Matthew.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is already making a fool of herself in her short time back in Congress. But that shouldn't come as a surprise, considering how often she is angry, unstable, and critical of her colleagues. The most disturbing part is that she isn't being discriminatory. Instead, she is vilifying and transphobically attacking two Democrats, which we will get to shortly. Not only is her targeting Republicans and insulting and threatening her conservative colleagues amusing, but it's also a MAGA civil war. But it has been going on for a few days. Marjorie Taylor Greene's assaults on our new colleague Sarah McBride are new, but we have seen Republican Nancy Mace's horrible transphobic comments against her before. When questioned about it, Marjorie Taylor Greene literally went ballistic, assaulted the journalist who had questioned her, and lost it. Please like this video immediately, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already, and have fun with us before we go into our Marjorie Taylor Greene rant. To put it simply, it is very meaningful to me. The mere suggestion of a simple question brought Marjorie Taylor Greene to tears, as I said before. But before we get to it, I'd want to know Chris Hayes's most recent opinions on Marjorie Taylor Greene's assaults on her fellow Republicans.
So far, it's unclear how effective this lobbying campaign has been. Some senators have said they're reserving judgment. They'd like to see the House Ethics Committee report into Gates. That committee, the House Ethics Committee, is set to meet tomorrow to discuss how to move forward with that report, which, again, is, as far as we can see, completed. It's a question of whether it gets released and how. Now, the probe was effectively shelved, or at least the release of the report was effectively shelved, when Gates abruptly resigned from Congress last week, which caught everyone by surprise. Now, there's certainly a case, I think, humbly, for the public to have access to the details in the report nevertheless, including the witnesses who say they saw Matt Gaetz having sex with a minor. Just today, we learned that an apparent hacker gained access to sworn testimony from two women involved in a related civil case. We should note the hacked material has not been made public, but it's another reminder this information still exists out there. Some House Republicans really don't want that information to be made public. I don't know why, but Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia has even resorted to threatening members of her own party to that end. Quote, "For my Republican colleagues in the House and Senate, if we are going to release ethics reports and rip apart our own that Trump has appointed, then put it all out there for the American people to see. Yes, all the ethics reports and claims, including the one I filed, all your sexual harassment and assault claims that were secretly settled, paying off victims with taxpayer money. The entire Jeffrey Epstein files, tapes, recordings, witness interviews, but not just those, there's more. Epstein isn't the only asset. If we're going to dance, let's all dance in the sunlight. I'll make sure we do." Now, of course, there's some, grain of salt, consider the source, conspiratorial ruminations there. But, you know, if there's a lot of this going around the Republican members of Congress, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We should know about it. Now, the Congresswoman provided no evidence such reports exist, but we do know that the Gates ethics report exists. We do know, according to a lawyer for some women, that they testified about what he did. And if this man is going to not just have a job in the administration, run the Department of Justice, I think the American public deserves to see it.
Because Marjorie Taylor Greene is really losing her mind, I support this effort to reveal all of MAGA's issues. Seeing that would fill me with joy. If only I could see all of the reports, man. In private, I would love to hear what you have to say about your colleagues. Get it done. Nonetheless, Marjorie, you must not to surf the Republican tide of anti-transgender animosity that is being directed against Sarah McBride, the recently elected lawmaker. The Republican Party is going ballistic about Sarah McBride's election as the nation's first transgender woman representative. Specifically, Nancy Mace, who wanted to make it illegal for Sarah McBride to use the toilet in the state capitol. Republicans are on board with it, but they can't explain why they're in favor of this strange and biased measure. Marjorie Taylor Greene's breakdown right here demonstrates that they become pretty upset when questioned.
Statement that Sarah McBride, the incoming congresswoman from Delaware, shouldn't be using the women's bathrooms here in the Capitol. Federal buildings, I think, too, is what she was kind of explaining. I know you've maybe agreed with her to a certain extent in the statement previously. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agreed. Sarah McBride, as he calls himself, formerly Tim McBride, is a biological man, and he should not be using any of our restrooms in the Capitols, in our office buildings. But Nancy Mace's resolution doesn't go far enough. A resolution is just a statement by Congress saying that Congress disagrees with something. We need something more binding, and that's what I just brought up at the microphones there in our conference, is I directly asked Speaker Johnson what the men in our leadership are going to do about this, because this has to be stopped. America gave a mandate at this election and said not only are they sick of the open borders, the invasion, the out-of-control inflation, foreign wars, but they're sick of the trans ideology being shoved down our throats, and it's an attack on women and children all over the country. I don't think Nancy Mace's resolution does enough. I think we need to do more. That's what I asked Speaker Johnson, and he committed to me in the conference that Sarah McBride will not be using our restrooms.
It's been reported that you said you'd get into a physical altercation with the biological male if you saw them in the bathroom. Would you get into a physical altercation with?
How is that reported? How is that reported? How is that reported?
It's been on social media that was.
So how is that reported?
I'm just wondering if you would get into a physical altercation with.
I shouldn't have to, but I shouldn't have to do that. No woman should have to. But look at what men have been doing to women. Look at all the female athletes that have had to compete against men. There's a volleyball player that has brain damage today because of a biological male spiking a ball into her head. Should any woman have to endure that? So if you're going to ask stupid questions like that, don't advocate for mentally ill men pretending to be women invading our spaces. You're a woman yourself, and you shouldn't accept predators in your bathrooms either.
When someone asks you a direct question about something you did and you can't explain it, you may want to think again before you explode in anger. Maybe there's an obvious indicator that you're not seeing things from the correct perspective. I don't think the Republicans are interested in reducing the cost of eggs over there. They have been openly hypocritical and transphobic. Those who said that Democrats were always focused on culture war issues and other non-economic topics are obviously mistaken. There hasn't been a lot of focus from the Republican Party. Members of the MAGA majority who were in the House constantly spread false information and conspiracy theories. It was their only action. They were never able to finish anything. Additionally, they do not intend to do so. Despite this, they were successful in terrifying many, especially those affected by recent disasters. The topic was revisited at a hearing over FEMA's response to those storms. As for Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of their colleagues, Jamie Raskin nailed it in her criticism of Donald Trump. Therefore, we will look into it here.
Of their colleagues, so we're going to check it out right here.
From the norms of nonpartisanship, which must govern the conduct and the work of the federal workforce, federal workers have a duty to serve all Americans, regardless of their political identification. FEMA's prompt and unequivocal personnel action in this case is powerful evidence that the civil service system is working, not only to deliver quality public service, but also to correct employee errors and ensure that the people whose homes were skipped, as in this case, receive outreach and assistance. And I understand that there were 20 homes that were skipped and then they were immediately addressed afterwards, but I want to ask about that. Now, none of this is to deny for a moment that in recent months, FEMA aid workers have been forced to work under a cloud of propaganda and lies concocted to erode public trust in FEMA. Because of this disinformation, many victims of hurricanes have rejected federal assistance, and others have even harassed and threatened FEMA workers. As Republican Congressman Chuck Edwards, who represents Asheville, North Carolina, said, all the misinformation has been, quote, not just unhelpful, but it's been harmful. I agree with my Republican colleagues and Administrator Criswell. Federal agencies must serve all Americans, and that means a federal workforce of nonpartisan professionals hired based on competence and merit. What's true of FEMA canvassers is, of course, true of the rest of the government. We need government for all the people, regardless of political viewpoint. President-elect Trump has promised to be a president for all Americans, and I hope he delivers on that. And if he falls short of it, I trust all my colleagues will hold him to it. In his first administration, President Trump all too often deliberately directed disaster aid based on the party politics of local leadership and past electoral performance, not the needs of the community and disaster survivors. In 2017, his administration denied 99% of the aid that North Carolina's Democratic governor requested as part of cleanup efforts after Hurricane Matthew. Also in 2017, after Hurricane Maria, President Trump blocked the full release of emergency assistance to Puerto Rico that was appropriated by us in Congress due to his unfounded belief that the destruction and death toll had been inflated to make him look bad. In 2018, after California suffered the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in its history, President Trump initially refused to approve disaster aid because of the state's liberal Democratic leanings. He reportedly later changed his mind after his staff provided him data showing that there were more Trump voters in Orange County, California, than there were in the entire state of Iowa. Now is the right time for all of us, Mr. Chairman, and I mean this, for all of us to agree that nobody in public office, no matter how high nor how low, should play partisan politics with disaster relief in the age of climate change.
It is dangerous to push the conspiracy.
From 829 to 1133. Republicans' dangerous conspiracy theories always hurt the most defenseless, those hit hardest by pandemics and natural disasters. People who are often their constituents and colleagues are often disregarded by them. They have never used them before, but we must expose their falsehoods no matter the cost. Following Jamie Raskin's lead, we will do it daily on this show. Please continue to show your support by subscribing, like, and commenting with a blue heart if you made it this far in the video. At that time, I will see you.